All throughout our shows, where we're talking about the method of correction, we understand that we're talking about changing ourselves, not what's outside of us, but that we have to change. And maybe it's the hardest thing to do, but we understand that this is what we have to do. It's possible to explain. It's kind of hard, but actually psychologists, biologists, they start agreeing with it, that the world outside us has no shape, but that the world is a projection of our inner qualities. And therefore, when I change myself, I change the world. I have to change myself a lot, my essence. But if so, I can change the world. I can really cross from world to world, from picture to picture, from reality to reality. And therefore, man can never change the external reality that he sees unless he changes himself. So this is the change that I'd like to ask about, because it's clear from psychology and from science that change takes time. It's complicated, there are different stages, like pregnancy. You have so many stages. And here we're talking about a physical development, and here you're talking about a person shifting from one world to another. And also psychologists, they talked about 8 different stages, as Erickson says, from birth till old age, and also Freud talked about it. We're always developing step by step, and the most essential change that we're talking about, changing our nature. What changes do we go through from the very beginning to that great, wondrous stage that we all want to come to eventually? First of all, the recognition of evil. That everything that we see is a projection of our evil nature. And therefore, the world seems completely evil. The world has no form of its own, but it's a projection of our internality. And therefore, as we say, anyone who sees flaws in others sees actually his own flaws. If I feel that the world is bad, and gradually I start understanding that it's all because I'm evil inside myself, and this is why I feel the evil, and were I good inside myself, I'd see the world as something good, then now I simply have to know, how do I invert myself from bad to good? And then instead of this world, instead of this hell, I can see heaven. And it really all depends on changing my internality, from the egoistic force to the force of giving, to the altruistic force, from hatred to love. This is the first stage, called the recognition of evil. After I come to that, and I agree that this is how it is, and I understand that I have 0 chances of reaching anything good unless I change myself from bad to good, from this point on, I enter the method of correction, from the recognition of evil to the method of correction. The method of correction is built in such a way that we're incapable of correcting ourselves, as it says that a prisoner can't save himself from prison. A person can't pull himself out of a swamp by his own hair. But I need some external force to help me come out of my great big ego, where the entire world that I see, it's all my ego. So I have to pull an external force. I have to draw an external force that doesn't exist in this world, but exists outside of this world, a positive force of bestowal, of love. Not bestow in love because it's preferable for me, but bestow in love because it's preferable for others. The very opposite of myself, because the calculation can be or for my own benefit or for the benefit of others, and therefore for this I need a method that can help me draw the good force that will change me for the better, where I determine that good is reaching bestowal and love and connection above my current nature. And the method is what? The method is how to draw the good force. The method is how to build such means, such relations between us in a small group, so that I and all the rest of the friends that have also gathered for the same purpose in order to attain the same goal, we will help each other to draw this good force, for it to work on the bad force, on the evil force. And here, very interesting things happen. That at first we're ready to connect, to be interconnected, and we feel good together. It's like with a young couple, or with children, or human beings that get to know each other and discover good things. But in time, over time, the more connected they are, they discover the evil force, and then they have a problem. What to do? Either to distance themselves from one another, or we say, no, we have gathered here in order to achieve the power of good. And the power of evil that is now revealed between us, it's for our own benefit, in order for us to know what do we have to draw the good force for. Because were it not for the revelation of the evil force, what would we need the good force for? For it to control what? And therefore, these people are happy that the egoistic evil forces are revealed between them. And even though that these forces reject them from one another, and they feel that they want to beat up each other and they hate each other, something that they didn't feel before, but they understand that all of this is revealed because they want to reach the good force. And therefore the quality of the evil that's disclosed between them is very special. It's called unfounded hatred. And then each of them nonetheless overcomes their urge, their desire to distance themselves from the others, and along with the others, ask for the force of good. It's not simple. It happens gradually over time, in ascents and descents, and different good and bad states, but this is what happens. If they succeed in drawing the good force over the ever-growing evil force, and the more the evil force shows itself, the more they're needy of the good force, meaning the evil that shows itself is for their own benefit. It's called helpmade against him. And then they draw more and more of the good force until they reach a state called se'ah, a complete measure of scrutinies and pleadings, and the good force reveals itself so much that it takes control over the evil force, closes the gap between them, and they really feel themselves as one man and one heart. And this is how they achieved their very first spiritual degree. And this is called Naran de Nefesh. This is how it's called. And their connection is called a spiritual vessel, in which they discover the fulfillment called the spiritual light or creator. And the moment they achieve that, they attain it, and they feel good, they feel a new world that opens up before them, a new reality, that the force of good dwells among them. They see beyond their animate body they see new phenomena in the force of bestowal, in the force of love that dwells among them, something that they didn't discover at all in the corporeal world that they lived in previously, where they lived by the power of their ego. But it comes only for a short moment. And again, the evil force is revealed among them, but it's an even greater force. And of course, against it, you have to draw the good force for it to control the evil force, and again and again. And this way, 125 degrees, until they discover that over their entire evil force controls the good force, and there is no bad in the world, but only good, and the evil supports the good, and they reach a world which is utterly good and corrected. The process you just described reminds me of breathing, of expansion and contraction. And if I understand the dynamics here, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understand is that after people understand that their good fortune depends on acquiring a new nature of bestowal and love instead of the egoistic nature that we have to begin with, they gather in order to do that. In order to do that, they gather in a small group that studies the wisdom of Kabbalah. In that group, they perform certain actions that draw the power of good. After they perform such actions that draw the power of good, the result that they get is the revelation of the evil force that you call unfounded hatred. And above that hatred, they have to keep on working in order to draw the good force. Comes the good force, covers for all the hatred, and opens a new level of connection and love between them that shows them a new world. And once that happens, again come the evil forces, and again they have to draw the good force, and so on and so forth. And there are 125 such degrees. This is the dynamics? Yes. Okay, now I'd like to talk about each of these steps. We're not going to talk about the 125 degrees, but it sounds like a kind of life cycle. I understand that the first stage has to be that people will come together and, according to the method of correction, will draw upon themselves the good force. Yes. Okay, so let's talk about this a bit. Suppose you, Tal, and I, we want to get together and draw the good force. What are the actions or what are the principles by which we act in order to draw the good force? First of all, we have to connect. What does this mean? To connect? Yeah. To connect, it means that each of us feels himself more important than himself. No, sorry. It means that to connect means that each feels the others as more important than his own self.